Christopher Cutts Galleries in Niagara Region. It's a pop-up show of Alexander Rasmussen at the Regional Variety and Gas Bar. We're going to go and check out that show and have a little talk. Let's go in, Sandy. Check it out. How does it feel to be back here showing? Now, I understand that one of your first shows that you put on yourself was actually at this very gas station. So there's been a history, goes back as a young man, a budding artist, and now you show with the Christopher Cutts Gallery and have for some time now, and you're revisiting. How does that make you feel?
The place feels the same, but I feel different.
Okay.
And so I'm revisiting it in a lot of ways, but the way that the art looks on the walls feels different. A lot feels different.
I'm sure that the paintings have evolved, and I'm just looking around them right now. We have this magnificent large format canvas behind us, and it's a real banger of a show. Some nice pictures here. So how did you get this far? How did you find this particular language?
I don't even ask that question of myself anymore. I tend to go at a new body of work thinking that I'm inventing something new. It's a clean slate. Like an Etch-a-Sketch, you just shake it and it's gone. And I get to start anew. And I think that sort of helps me enjoy the act of painting and the curiosity that's required to thrill myself.
Now I notice, and since you've been working with me, you're an abstract painter. You've been making non-objective paintings. I know they say most abstract paintings are rooted in nature. Did you ever paint naturalistically, landscapely, or?
I started that way in 2009 when I, kind of made the declaration that this was what I was doing. And quickly the landscape started to confuse itself with the sky.
Okay.
And I knew that there was more to discover.
Now, what about abstraction? So did that you're telling me it sort of evolved naturally, that you thought, okay, your landscapes started to become more abstracted. I do see sort of archetypes that you place in them. How did that evolve for you? And I'll say another thing, Sandy. I know you said that you like a clean slate, but I see Sandy Rasmussen in these paintings. And I saw Sandy Rasmussen with the very first show I had too.
Sure.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm happy to see that.
Yeah. As am I. But I don't know if it's ego at play or something like that. But I always want to paint the next best painting.
Huh.
And I think that kind of keeps you going. As far as what you were saying about some of the sort of motifs or baiting that I do to kind of throw bones, whether it's a sun-like motif in the stand behind us, some interpret that as a moon. I'm just teasing you. I'm not telling you anything for certain. There has to be ambiguity for me to allow it to permit it in this painting.
Okay.
Now, when you're making a painting, like an abstract painting, you say one of the best painting you can do, better than the last one, okay? And you find that daunting.
It's like it's a horrible person.
Yeah.
And I also practice acceptance sometimes. I kind of look at it like a character, as if I'm inventing a character for a movie. And 3/4 of the way through the painting, it presents itself to me, and I know who you are. And sometimes that character is just not the lead role. It's the part of the support cast. And you just move on to the next. It doesn't mean that it's lesser. They're all important in making the film. And so.
Now, obviously there's times that you say, hey, that one it's got the right smack. It's got that what I'm looking for. I think I've evolved. How often does that happen? So, you make a lead actor, not a supporting cast. To use your metaphor.
Maybe I'm not the best judge of this.
Yeah.
So that's the other aspect. What I think is great usually is I'm proven wrong somehow.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's so true.
I would say there's usually 2 stars out of 10 paintings, that kind of thing.
Hey, now, it doesn't necessarily mean like very large scale. You're not seeing this right now, but there's a rather humble scale painting, maybe 2 feet by 2 feet, and maybe not even. How does that feel? Is there a similar approach? Small, big?
So in painting a large painting, there's a certain heroicism that I feel. I'm ambitious. I need to paint something bigger than myself, and I think I do it at a very specific time. It has nothing to do usually with the show. It just has to do with how I want to feel about painting, and maybe I need to fill up my tank a bit. And but with a small painting, if I pull it off, is just as heroic. Because small paintings are hard. At least I find they're hard to do.
Yeah. Actually, different generations said the thing. Ray Mead liked to paint very big, and he also did these little small ones, and he said the little ones were son of a guns, So, yeah, that makes sense to me. So, regardless of scale, yeah, you still got to put that creative juice into it to make it happen. When you're looking at a blank canvas and you're thinking, okay, I want to do something special here, regardless of the scale. What kind of approaches do you have? Because I know you do different things. Like there was a show we had that you started the works outside. You were kind of dragging them around on the ground in this cherry orchard where you were working. They were getting stained. Then you would take it into the studio and start to, I guess, articulate it in certain ways. Other times, I'm assuming they're maybe more traditional, conventional, almost like an easel picture, looking at a thing. So, what's determining how you're going to approach things?
I don't like the discomfort of the blank canvas, and so I decide I'm just not going to feel that altogether. So I kind of draw the first blood, usually with some,
sort of existential statement of sort of drawing.
Just, yeah.
Like if it's dragging it through a field, and
then I know I'm in it, and I'm going to be here for a while.
Now, what about if you're in the studio and you got this blank, or just you'll make one mark on it, and then you'll take off on it.
And then, my wife won't be able to contact me for 4 or 5 hours.
Very nice, very nice. I guess you got to adhere to the edges of the painting. Those are sort of the first 4 lines of the object. You put one line, the rest have to relate. So when you're thinking about a composition, you got that in mind? You want something to work in all directions, also inside and out?
I wish I kept a database of words that are meaningless, but refer to a specific set of compositional happenings. And I would I always think about this, and I would give it a name. Oh, that's a fidget, or this is this type, because it doesn't refer to anything else outside of painting. But I come across them all the time, and once I know that it's this and not that, I will start to sort of gently complete the painting in those parameters.
Now, when the painting sort of is, it's sort of telling you what to do. Does it say I need something more? Do you see it that way, or I don't need anything more? When do you know a painting is done?
I often think about this thing that another artist said. He said, when the hatred stops.
The hatred? Yeah. Flesh that out. What do you mean by the hatred? You mean that it's...
That you just feel uncomfortable until you feel good. And it's interesting because you're making objects that are going out into the world, whether it's an exhibition or what have you. It's an extension of you in a sense, but it represents you. And if I was sending a friend to go and represent me at a meeting, say, I would want him to do a pretty bang up job. So there's this pressure that you feel.
Oh yeah.
And for me, I just have to live with it long enough so that the painting sort of ingratiates itself with me, and I understand it. And there's a closeness that's developed. In a really great circumstance, there might be even a sort of romanticism that I feel with the painting.
Yeah.
Where I feel, like I said earlier, I feel sort of heroic. I feel like I'm putting a pin in this moment in time.
Do you really think that this is an extension of you, these objects?
When they represent a window of time in my life, sort of biographically, something like being inside this gas station, we're not going to get this time back. It's very precious to me. And so, they're like journal entries, so to speak. I don't know if that suffices for me, but
being back here 10 years ago, I guess it was when you were first here. Now, when you're looking around and seeing the work that you've made here, do you see the same artist that was here 10 years ago? Same kind of picture? Or do you think, wow, I'm a totally different animal? Now, earlier you said, I'm different. The place is the same, I'm different. By extension, I guess the art is different too.
Yeah. I was a younger artist up against the world. I didn't have representation, and I wanted to be taken seriously. Yeah. And that comes out in the work. It's very honest, like paintings don't lie, and I love that about them. So looking back, I'm very fond of the sort of resilient, defiant character that allowed himself to be in a gas station.
Yeah. Was it a body of work that hung well together as well? Like this is for sure, Alexander Rasmussen. I see there's something that's very homogeneous about it. It looks good. It's a body of work. Were you able to pull that off 10 years ago?
Yeah. So that was the first time. Well, it was maybe the second time I pulled that off. I did this body of work that was very dark, and I was even lighting the paintings on fire. So the soot, the ash, blew in the wind and was captured and frozen in time. And I was developing a bit of a language for what was happening. And then after that, in 2014, I made a group that I called the 2014 paintings, and they were very homogeneous. And yet I was able to, with each one, explore acrylic at the time in its own unique way. And I made some strong pieces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I know, Sandy, you sort of have your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the painting world, certainly in the Americas. You're an abstract painter. There are other abstract painters. Abstraction kind of, some people said it had its time. It was a 20th century phenomenon. There was a time that it seemed to be not so relevant. There was Neo-Expressionism came back. Now you've chosen to be an abstract painter, and we do live now well into the 21st century. And you've probably heard the expressions postmodern. We live in a postmodern world. It means, to me, basically that anything goes. But there are definitely abstract painting isn't going anywhere, and it's here to stay. Are there any particular painters that you think about, your peers, your contemporaries, that you look at and say, yeah, I'm not talking about who came before, who's painting today, and and you look at that work and say, I like what's going on there. This is what I'm interested in.
I look at Joe Bradley.
Yeah.
And Mark Bradford. They're probably the big ones. I try to not just focus on where the light is shining. You know, on those artists, but I think what they're doing is actually very real, and if you go and see the work in person, you can sort of feel the person behind them.
Yeah.
And they're on their own track, and I'm on my own track, and so that's nice. But I like hungry painters, and I consider myself one.
Yeah, sure.
So Julie Moretu in the States, there's a lot of wonderful painters in the U.S. But I also look to Europe. Daniel Richter is one that I usually go back to, especially for color.
Who was the gentleman you were mentioning to me earlier? Did the squares, the colors, Stanley?
Stanley Whitney.
Was that the one? Yeah. Stanley Whitney, yeah. Now he's an older gentleman. In fact, he's still around, of course, making work, but sort of
he's in his 80s.
Yeah.
And then another big one is Sterling Ruby.
Okay. Now, how about yourself? Where do you see yourself going next? Hey, I'm an artist. I'm a painter. You want to make objects. You want to paint. But do you think beyond the next show? Or, I'd like to do this. I'm sure you'd like to have a retrospective somewhere, but maybe not just yet, but a survey in an institution. But
I'm not in a hurry for that other stuff.
Yeah.
I think I've learned not to chase that. I'm mostly in a hurry to paint the next body of work, and I think that everything else will fall into place however it does.
Yeah.
It's healthier.
When you earlier said you just want to make the best painting that you can, I remember in a conversation I had with Tom Hodgkins, who's part of the Painters 11 group. He's since passed away, and I work with his estate. I remember him saying to me that when he's making a painting, he just loves that painting, and that he thinks that's the best painting. And he quoted Duke Ellington, and they say, "Hey, Duke," he says, "what's your best thing? Was it the A Train?" Duke Ellington had so many smashes, and Duke Ellington's response was, "This composition I just wrote, that's the best darn thing I did." And I thought, that's great. That's aspirational. I think that's what you should be heading towards. And you're right. You're not always the best judgment of what is an A+ painting. And so, on that note, keep making the paintings, Sandy, and make the best one you can, the next one.